Noticias como siempre, para comenzar en nuestra primera jugada,
We
ayer
start
se
Jugada
publicaba en la
Crítica,
red Twitter un corto pero contundente contrapunteo del que
and
se desprende la siguiente noticia.
we
John
are
Bolton
telling
ya no
you
será más
this
asesor del
news. John
presidente en
Bolton won't
materia de
be
seguridad
the
nacional
security
estadounidense.
advisor for the
Su
US
sucesor
government.
será designado formalmente la
Its
semana próxima,
successor
según
will be
informó
designated in
el
the
propio
coming
Trump.
days by
Charlie
Trump.
Cooperman ocupará de manera interina su
Charlie
puesto,
Cooperman
según lo dijo ayer también el vicesecretario
will take
principal de
that
prensa
position
de la Casa
according
Blanca,
to the
Paul Ziegler.
spokesperson of the
Cooperman,
White
de
House.
68 años de edad, trabajó en las compañías
He
Lockheed Martin y
worked in
Boeing
some
y sirvió en la
companies
administración de
before
Donald Reagan
and
durante los años 80.
worked
Desde
on
enero ha
Ronald
constituido su
Reagan's
puesto de nuevo como
government.
asesor adjunto de seguridad nacional.
By the
Sobre
way,
la existencia
Telesur
de
hasn't
Bolton como
paid
la
its
única
employees
nominación
for
política del
around
momento.
3 months and a half,
Vamos a
and they
mirar
still
de
don't
una
give us
vez el
answers.
contrapunteo cómo fue
The
nuestro
employees
día
are fed
el
up with
martes
this
9 de
situation,
septiembre,
but
8:58 de la
we haven't
mañana.
got
Donald
any
Trump
answers
escribió
yet.
en su cuenta: anoche informé
It
a John
seems
Bolton
that they don't
que
care
su
about paying its
servicio está
employees, but keeping
disponible
them
si lo
working for
necesita.
free. I'm not even a
Bolton,
translator,
luego
and
de
I'm
ser
translating
dotado de
this
muchas de sus
for
sugerencias,
free.
al igual que otros en la administración de
Anyway,
Bolton,
so
le pedí a John su
many
renuncia
people in the US
para
government
esta mañana.
disagreed with John
Ya sabemos
Bolton's
que muchos de sus
suggestions,
servicios.
so
La próxima semana nombraré a un nuevo asesor de seguridad
next week there will
del
be a new
presidente.
security
Así
advisor in the
informó
White House,
Donald
according to
Trump.
Donald
Y
Trump's
ahora,
tweet.
martes 10 de septiembre, 9:10 de la mañana, es decir, tan solo unos minutos de diferencia, escribió Bolton lo siguiente: anoche ofrecí dimitir y el presidente
Bolton
solicitó
said that he offered his
apenas
resignation to Trump,
así,
but
estas
that
solo
he was
dos
gonna give him
frases en ese espacio que ofrece
an
Twitter.
answer on the
Bueno,
next
le voy
day.
a otro dato. Bolton debía comparecer la tarde de este martes en una
Bolton
conferencia de
should
prensa en la
have
Casa Blanca
talked
junto a
on
los
a
secretarios de
press
Estado del
conference in the White
Tesoro Mark
House
Pompeo
with
y Steve
the
Mnuchin,
Treasury
respectivamente. Hoy anoche
representatives
Trump en
and
Twitter
some other
publicó
representatives
menos de
from the
2
White
horas
House.
de la realización de esa conferencia o rueda de prensa en la que finalmente solo estuvieron
And
Pompeo y
finally, at
Mnuchin.
that
Eso
press
nos da
conference,
o nos
only
hace
Pompeo
pensar que
and
el
some
miembro de
other
más
people
alto
were
nivel
there.
tal vez no había sido comunicado a las jerarquías de más abajo.
Maybe these news
Resultado
were
sobre este
not told
asunto, el
to the
primer día
lower
de
positions
estrategia
in the
por la
White
conferencia
House.
de prensa terminó girando en torno a esa noticia.
But in the end, that press conference ended up
Dejaré que
talking
sea el
about that.
presidente quien
I
hable
will
de las
let the
razones por las
president
cuales tomó esa
talk
decisión.
about
Lo que
that.
sí diría es que el presidente tiene
I'll
el derecho a
say that the
elegir el
president has the
personal más y
right to
trabaja
choose
directamente
the
para él.
personal
Este es un cargo
working
en el que debe estar una persona en la que él confíe y valore,
in
cuyos
this
esfuerzos y
in
juicios
his
le
government.
beneficien en la implementación de la política exterior estadounidense. Eso es lo que como miembros del gabinete
As
Mnuchin y yo
members of this
intentamos y de hecho hacemos
cabinet,
todos los días cuando el
we
presidente toma
work
una
with our
decisión como
president
esta.
and we agree with
Sabemos que
him when he
está en
takes
todo
this
su
kind of
derecho de
decisions.
hacerlo.
He has all
Nosotros
his
damos
right
nuestras sinceras
to do
opiniones.
that.
Muchas veces Bolton y yo no tuvimos de acuerdo. Eso es cierto
Many
para muchas
times
personas
Bolton and
con
I
las que
were not
interactúo. Mi misión
didn't
es
agree,
asegurarme, mientras que esté al frente del Departamento de Estado, de hacer la diplomacia de Estados Unidos y trabajar con los equipos para
and
obtener buenos
we
resultados.
have to work
Mucha
among
gente
teams
ha hablado
to
de esto desde hace tiempo.
like to work
Definitivamente,
together to get the
Bolton,
best
hubo lugares en los que
results.
Bolton y yo tuvimos
There were
opiniones
places
distintas
in which
sobre
Bolton
cómo
and I had
debíamos
different
proceder.
opinions on procedures.
Bueno, algunos se
Well,
preguntan: ¿será este hombre a quien acabamos de escuchar el más fortalecido por la salida de
was
John
this
Bolton?
man
Ya lo veremos.
the
Desde el punto de
most
vista de
benefited
nuestras
by
análisis
Bolton's
específicamente. Y del
dismissal?
Poder
We'll see.
Legislativo, el Senado, se dieron pronunciamientos como estos. Voy a sumar a 2 parlamentarios del lado demócrata.
Now to parliament members from the Democrat side. Well, Bolton was the third security advisor of Trump. And I think there is a lot we gotta know about this dismissal. Which were the reasons or differences or disagreements that came out. And yeah, and we gotta talk to the team that decides
Grosso modo,
things with the president.
Mis desacuerdos con John Bolton sobre su política
Well, some of my disagreements with Bolton
del acuerdo nuclear
had to do with the nuclear agreement
armas nucleares, pero también
or taking the positions we took about nuclear weapons.
temas como Siria. Obviamente,
In other topics as Syria, we also disagreed. Important ideas to talk about Bolton. He was the member of some important security departments of the US. He published the "To give up is not an option," defending the US before the UN and abroad.
legislativo desempaquetar los poderes, este último en tiempos de Guerra Fría. Se estrenó dentro de la Administración Nacional de su país en 1981 como asesor general de la Agencia para el Desarrollo Internacional,
He had a lot of important charges.
ingresa luego en la Casa Blanca con
He later came to White House with Ronald Reagan
de 1985 a 1989
as a general attorney.
Desempeño y luego subsecretario de Asuntos de Organización Internacional en el Departamento de Estado. Esto fue entre 1989 y 1990.
He had a lot of important things in 1993.
Bajo la apariencia de un think tank, centro de generalmente de carácter político.
He had a lot of political ideas. Then he was a subsecretary of state. Then he took charge. He was in charge of the national defense. He was a permanent representative of the US before the UN in 2006 and 2005. And in 2002, he attacked Cuba, accusing them of having a program of biological weapons to attack the US.
Inició una teoría belicista contra Corea del Norte, Irán e Irak llamada el eje del mal, con la que presionó a la Agencia Central de Inteligencia y al Departamento de Estado para comenzar investigaciones al respecto, y ya sabemos todo lo que derivó de esta acusación.
And there were some allegations made by him that, yeah. Now let's talk about some of the foreign policies that he applied, or the hard line of the US, applied by one of the most conservative and aggressive members of Trump's team.
República Islámica de Irán. Bueno, a Bolton se lo señala como responsable de Corea, le calificó de fanático de la guerra.
Considered him to be a fanatic of war.
Afganistán recomendó recientemente, hace muy poco, suspender conversaciones con talibanes. El sábado Trump, de hecho,
Afghanistan recommended to suspend conversations with Taliban. An Afghan representative said that they will make the US suffer for their decisions. With Russia, the US broke the INF treaty on August 2nd. With Venezuela, the US strengthened the coup d'etat attempts, and the international isolation, sanctions, and military invasion. On Cuba, he worked on the strengthening of the blockades with the third title of the Helms-Burton Law.
Apostamos a la salida pacífica, sí, pero todas las opciones igualmente están sobre la mesa. Y en el caso de Cuba, bueno,
well, they're talking about the same thing that I just talked about.
El predecesor de Trump, Barack Obama, en ese sentido ha recrudecido el bloqueo. Tenemos allí como ejemplo el título tercero de la ley Helms-Burton. Entre tantas otras cosas, ¿no? Están solo...
Among many other things, this is just an example of what he did during his time in government, working for the government. Now from Washington, D.C., we will talk to Jorge Gestoso, another arrogant guy from this channel. What's the future of the US? What happens now with the resignation of John Bolton? Well, Lucia, what could be happening with this in regards to foreign policies, especially towards Latin America? Well, probably the form will change, but not the intentions or the ways or the true goals of this government. About, well, this resignation of Bolton says, according to Alex May, well, Donald Trump doesn't care about Latin America. So from the first day, whatever he cares about is to be re-elected. And to be re-elected it's very important to win the Florida state. Let's remember that that's the state that gave the triumph to George W. Bush Jr. So yeah, the goal of Trump is to have the votes of Florida in order to achieve enough votes. He must satisfy the Cuban community of Florida and the Venezuelan community exiled in Florida. Well, so what he's doing is being very strict in regards to what John Bolton made up, the triangle of tyranny: Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua. So his strategy was to strengthen all of the sanctions, because what he's very interested about, or only interested about, is to bring down President Maduro and to worsen the situation in Cuba and Nicaragua. This show of force must satisfy the voters of Florida, the Cubans and the Venezuelans living there, and with that makes no sense, but anyway, Bolton leaves, but Trump's foreign policy is his strategy for re-election. Whatever this guy said makes no sense, but you know, they don't pay us, so I don't care about this. We know that John Bolton was an extreme right-winger, supported violence and war. So Trump said it was me, the one who had to calm down this guy. So, this rustic, this vintage old commander was thinking about bringing down Maduro like an elephant entering a porcelain shop. That's exactly what that guy said. Anyway, well, he said like, no, the strategy is not to use this very tough guy. We need someone more subtle, someone more diplomatic, someone more elegant, but without decreasing the strength of the policies against Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela. But that must be done in a most Machiavellic way. So the question is what to expect from these policies from now on, which won't change. What is going to change is the shape, the face, but not the goals or the methods. Is this going to be applied to the rest of the world? Well, yeah, but in a way.
¿Recuerdas que él fue el gran autor de la guerra contra Saddam Hussein en Irak? Es decir, el gran promotor, como no le alcanza, porque necesitaba absolutamente declararle la guerra, como el mismo Trump dice, a media humanidad, lo dejamos y...
Well, Trump wants to declare war to the whole world.
Definitivamente quería bombardear Irán. Quería que el acuerdo nuclear que se había logrado,
but Trump wanted,
con varios países, con la Unión Europea, pero también en la que participa China y
in regards to these nuclear agreements with Russia, Syria, and some other countries, Trump wants to dismantle this nuclear agreement, and also he wants to bomb Iran, because according to his policies, the big friend was Israel and Saudi Arabia, where they
La mayoría de los secuestradores de esos aviones venían de Arabia Saudita, pero sigue siendo...
And considering that many of the airplanes on 9/11 came from Saudi Arabia, the alleged friend of the United States, but
también quería iniciar acciones militares contra Corea del Norte.
they also wanted to start military actions against North Korea. They wanted to cut dialogue and diplomacy with other nations. He wanted to bomb and attack. That was the policy. Strict policies, military intervention. Everybody suffer, and that's what keeps the US alive, the war industry. But now that he's gone, we ask ourselves, what is going to happen in regards to Afghanistan and the Taliban's? According to witnesses, the night before the resignation of Bolton, or the alleged resignation of Bolton, there was a very strong argument in the White House in which Trump wanted to keep the peace agreements with the Taliban in order to take those troops from Afghanistan and pretend to be the hero of peace, which he's looking forward to be in order to win the re-election or to be re-elected. From that discussion argument, Bolton totally disagreed, and probably that's the reason for which he resigned. But both of them had disagreements in the past for a long time. And Trump wanted to calm down Mr. Bolton. So what can Latin America expect with the substitute of Bolton? We have to see. Thank you, thank you, Jorge. See you soon. That was Jorge Gestoso from Washington, D.C. Now we go back to our table, to our screen, and we see some of the articles on the websites in the world. Russia denies or thinks that no politics or policies will be changed with this resignation. They don't think that this will change anyhow the foreign policy of the United States. That was said by Dmitry Peskov, spokesperson of the Russian government. CNN, resignation of Bolton shows how Trump has no plans for his policies. According to this article, according to this, Trump has no plans in his policies, and he's just limited to reality shows. Strong words from CNN. Sputnik said, Iran insists the United States are rejecting the policies, the war policies of Bolton. To President Hassan Rouhani from Iran said that the U.S. must understand that the war is not of their interest, and he hopes the U.S. to reject these tough policies. Only resistance and strength will help Iran to face these current threats. Another one, Izquierda Diario, says Trump sacks Bolton. How will policies change? They think that these kind of measures are crazy or unjustified, and he only uses the same to sack people from his government as he uses his policies to attack countries. The hawk, Bolton, helped the White House to resist or hold some of the red lines that they had in their agenda. But the profile of the possible substitutes of Bolton seems to indicate that, according to many analysts, that the mistakes of its foreign policies will start a new moderation movement. This is weird, I'm probably not translating it as I should. I don't care, I'm not a translator. They are not paying me my salary here. I just speak English. Well, so what will happen after this resignation in Latin America and the world? We will come back after a break.
Analysts assure that the differences became even stronger in the past weeks. One of them U.S. out of the government, Bolton, what will Trump's warrior strategy turn out to be? The president explained that Bolton's dismissal, saying that he did not agree with many of his suggestions. He did it via Twitter. There are those who say that this dismissal was foreseeable and it was inevitable. And even though it was about his own appointment. In any case, doing a completion of exercise, let's go to some points of divergency between Donald Trump and John Bolton that several times were said in the news media and networks. Analysts claim that the disagreements between Bolton and Trump were deepened in the recent weeks. One is linked to the policy of the White House with the Taliban in Afghanistan. Bolton argued that it was not desirable to enter into peace agreements with them, while Trump does consider them beneficial. Bolton, like the Vice President Mike Pence, did not want the Taliban to go to Camp David, the scene of several historical agreements. However, Trump noted that these differences were absolutely media invention. Trump and his now former official had also differences over the North and Iran of Korea. The former advisor had also criticized seeking an agreement with Kim Jong-un and Hassan Rouhani. Hours after the departure of Bolton, it transcended that Trump would be willing to meet with the Iranian president. Weeks ago, it was leaked that President Trump was also angry with Bolton at the lack of progress in harassing of the Cuban and Venezuelan governments. The tycoon would have blamed Bolton for the failures of the policy of total hostility toward these two countries. With the exit of Bolton, the expectation is open that Trump will slow down the extreme pressure that applies against Iran and that so far has not reported any good dividends. Well, let's analyze a little bit more. We have from Mexico, Arturo Cabrera. He's part of one of the international analysts that we consult. Thank you once again for being with us. Of the things that we've read and we've heard
quiero preguntarte
I would like
si
to
a
ask
tu
you
juicio se viene una
if
moderación
in
de
your
la política exterior estadounidense.
if you
De ser
think that there
así,
will be
esa moderación sería
some
solo en la
moderation in
oratoria,
the U.S.
en las
policy.
formas,
Will this be
pero
in
no en el
form
fondo.
or also in the fundamental parts?
Hola, Lucía.
Hi, Lucia.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Buenos días. No te escucho bien.
I really don't hear you that well.
Porque
I
estaba
guess
preguntando sobre
you're
el
asking
significado
about
la
the
destitución
what
de
is the
John
meaning
Bolton
of this
por el
destitution
presidente
of
Trump.
John Bolton on behalf of Donald Trump.
¿Es eso lo que me preguntaste?
Is that what you
Sí,
asked me?
sí, queremos
Yes.
analizar el significado en la geopolítica y te pregunto primero si piensas que
Do
vendría
you think
de aquí
that
más
from
una
now on
moderación en
there's
la
going to be
política
some type of
exterior y de haber
moderation
esa
in the foreign
moderación,
policy?
de introducir sutileza sería
And
solo en la
will it be
oratoria,
more
un cambio en
subtle
las formas, pero
or
no en
will
el
it be a
fondo?
change in the form? How do you think it's going to
Bueno,
come about?
Yo pienso que
Well, I
la
think
destitución de
that the
Bolton
destitution of
es una
Bolton
buena noticia.
is
En principio.
good news in the fundamental.
Realmente es muy difícil
I think that it's very hard to
encontrar una
find
persona más
people
fanática,
that are more fanatic
más guerrerista,
and prone to
mentirosa,
war, liar,
inescrupulosa y además de eso
untruthful,
que dentro de la misma perspectiva
and that
imperial
within this imperialistic point of view,
un hombre que crea
he's a man
problemas
that causes lots of trouble to the government.
Estados Unidos. Yo creo que Venezuela
I think that Venezuela
es un ejemplo
is an example,
fehaciente de eso,
a living example
donde él le ofreció
of where he
a
offered.
Trump en marzo, ya Maduro iba
Trump
a
was
estar
offered several things.
derrocado por el alto mando de las Fuerzas Armadas, que él iba a lograr
He
dividir.
said that he
Bueno,
was going to
usted
be able to
recuerda,
divide.
En esa fase
As you
que
recall in that
va-
phase,
mayor parte de los tweets de Bolton iban
most of
dirigidos al presidente Maduro,
the
al general
tweets of Bolton
Padrino,
were
etcétera.
directed to
Siempre
President
amenazando,
Maduro. He was always threatening,
vamos a hacerle esto y vamos
we're
a
going to
hacerle
do
lo
this
otro.
and that.
Pero le pasó, como decía Chávez, que se
But-
mete con Venezuela, se seca.
It happened what
Eso
Chavez said.
le ha pasado
Whoever
a
tries to
obviamente no
mess
solo
with
a
Venezuela will just dry
Al
out.
parecer,
So apparently,
efectivamente, la
in
cuestión de-
effect,
de Afganistán,
the Afghanistan
lo que
affair,
ya decidió a Trump hacer algo
what
que
Trump already
deseaba
decided
hacer
to
hace
do,
mucho tiempo. Yo no espero mucha moderación
he already
hasta que
carried
vea
out.
que
I don't
muchos
think there's going to be any moderation up until I see who is going to be the
Pero estoy hablando de
replacement.
una moderación más
But of
bien
course,
de
I'm talking
forma,
about a
de
moderation
estilo,
that of style.
y no sé, porque en el equipo
And in
de
the
Trump
team,
no ha
in the
aparecido
Trump
por
team,
ahora
there has not been
nadie
anybody
con esas características.
with
o sea,
that
si vemos a
characteristic.
Pence, pues
Because if
Pence
you
es
see
extremadamente
Pence,
agresivo,
he's extremely
ya
aggressive.
sabemos la actitud que tiene
And we know the attitude
hacia
that he has
Venezuela,
towards
la que ha tenido
Venezuela
con relación a Irán, la que
and
ha tenido con
Iran
relación a Corea del Norte.
and North Korea.
Pompeo tampoco
Well,
no
Pompeo
se puede
isn't,
esperar mucho de él. Si vamos a América Latina,
we can't expect much from
el
him either.
vicedirector del Consejo de
If we go to
Seguridad
South
Nacional para
America,
América Latina es Mauricio Claver Carone,
the counselor for
un
South America
contrarrevolucionario de
is
origen cubano, de
a
Miami,
Cuban person
que fue redactor de la ley Helms-Burton en su
who
momento,
redacted the
y
Helms-Burton Law,
que
and
es
that
un feroz enemigo de la revolución
is a
cubana, de la
ferocious
revolución
enemy
bolivariana,
of the Cuban
de, el
revolution.
sandinismo en Nicaragua y de cualquier proceso de cambios en América Latina. Hay que ver si ese equipo se
It's
queda.
important to
El
see if
mismo
this
que
man
sustituye
stays,
a Trump es un islamófobo feroz.
because this man is an
O
Islamophobe.
sea, el que lo sustituye provisionalmente, me refiero. El que se ha quedado al frente del despacho.
Who has
Es
been,
decir,
who is
que,
now in charge of the office.
Por ahora,
So for now,
yo no esperaría
I would not expect
un cambio de mayor
any
importancia. Yo pienso
important
que,
change. I think
Bolton
that Bolton
le hizo un servicio a
did a
Trump,
service
que
to
fue
Trump,
patear el tablero,
and it was to mess up
acabar con
things
muchas de las cosas que había hecho Obama, que era un
and
interés de
do
Trump
away with
electoral
many things that
importante.
Trump had established
Y en ese sentido,
And in the
pues,
sense
estuvo a punto de hacer arder el mundo.
that make the
Cual
world
propio
blow up.
Trump, reconoció en alguna
Well, let's
ocasión. Pero,
let's remember that Trump
creo
once had said
que el imperio vaya
in his
a
own
hacer
words.
un
But I
cambio.
really don't think that the government, the U.S. government,
Te
will make
pregunto, los
substantial
focos de
changes.
conflicto eran múltiples. pero suponemos que en algunas cosas mínimamente habrá habido coincidencia entre estos dos hombres.
We
el
think that there
presidente Trump
probably was
y
some
el ya
coincidence between
ex-asesor en
these two
materia de
men.
seguridad del mandatario John
There had to
Bolton.
be because they worked so
¿No será
close.
la excusa perfecta
Isn't it maybe the
de
perfect
Trump para un
excuse
poco
of
lavarse
Trump
las manos
to
o
start
limpiarse la cara, tal vez
washing
con
his
necesidad
hands
de captar algunos
with the
sectores, de
need
captar
to
algunos votos ya enrumbado,
capture
enfilado
some of the
hacia
votes?
las elecciones de 2020? ¿Tú cómo lo ves?
How do you see it?
Te estoy contestando por pura intuición porque no me llega
I'm
la
answering
señal
just out of
tuya,
pure intuition because I really can't
Lucía,
hear your
pero,
voice. But
en cuanto a la perspectiva
in terms of the
del
perspective
futuro
of the future,
de Bolton, lo que tenemos de inmediato
what we see
es la
immediately
necesidad
is the
de que
need
Trump tenga
that
una
Trump
plática con el presidente iraní, ahora
should
cuando
have
venga
a
Asamblea
discussion with the
General,
Iranian
de la
president
ONU, pues llevar a cabo un tipo de política con un consejero
to
de seguridad
carry
nacional,
out a
como
foreign
Bolton,
policy
era
with
muy difícil
with an
en
advisor
cuanto al
like
político
Bolton was
congruente
very hard.
continuar la política
It
de
was
diálogo
incoherent
que,
to carry
los
out any
hechos
type of dialogue
indican que Trump desea
because
seguir
everything
con
shows that
Kim
Trump
Jong-un y Corea del Norte, aunque en los hechos
Trump has this policy
no se ha
of
producido ninguna
sending
evolución
any type of
favorable en Corea
attacks.
del Norte más allá
So far, there has been no
de
evolution
las
in
reuniones, pero
North Korea,
hechos concretos,
and nothing further beyond
eso el
the
gobierno
meetings.
coreano lo ha estado
The
puntualizando
Korean
constantemente.
government
Lo
has
mismo
pointed this out.
ocurre con
Same
Irán,
thing is what
o sea,
happens
habría
with
que ver,
Iran. I think
si
we
se
have to
da
wait and see
esa reunión
if there is going to be
de
that
los dos
meeting
presidentes
of
en
the other
Naciones
presidents
Unidas,
in the United Nations.
que podría salir de allí, porque
Let's see what
el
could
tema
be
es
made out of this.
que Trump no está
Because the
conforme
thing is
con
that
el
Trump
tratado y además
is not satisfied
también es un tema electoral de primer orden, porque él prometió
with
en la
his
campaña
people because
que
he
iba
offered
a acabar con
because
el
he
tratado.
offered that he
El
was
problema es que
going
para hacer un
to
nuevo tratado,
do away with
de,
the
los
agreement. The
iraníes
problem is
aceptaran
that to
nuevas condiciones
do
que
away with it,
ya no
you have to
serían las
expect the
mismas,
Iranians to
que se
put up with
acordaron
some
con
things that
las
are not in
cuatro
the
potencias más
that
una,
were already
o
in
sea,
the
los
treaty that
cuatro
has been
miembros permanentes del
dismissed.
Consejo de Seguridad más Alemania y la Unión Europea. Habría que ver hasta dónde los iraníes están
It's important to
dispuestos a
see
llegar,
that
porque los
how
iraníes
far
hicieron
the
muchas
Iranian are
concesiones
willing
para llegar al tratado al
to
que
go
se
to
llegó.
the treaty.
Dieron una muestra enorme
They
de
gave
flexibilidad para poder
an expression of
quitarse
loyalty.
encima de las sanciones prácticamente
This is
paralizantes
practically
que
to
habían impuesto. Y ahora
paralyze them.
están casi en el punto de
And now they're
con
almost
solamente
in the
una diferencia,
starting
que es que
point,
China y
but not
Rusia
quite.
e India, bueno, China e India fundamentalmente le están
China and India
comprando
fundamental
el
are
petróleo,
buying
y
all of the
Rusia,
petroleum from
pues,
China.
está vendiendo armamento y tiene las mejores relaciones con ellos, al punto que ha
And
dicho
China
que
has good
un ataque a
relationships.
Irán sería
Because
considerado por Rusia como un ataque a Rusia, que realmente
let's not
eso
forget
me sorprendió mucho cuando lo escuché, porque es un compromiso de una naturaleza muy
that some of
importante.
the things that Trump has
Pero,
offered, he has not been able to
sí,
carry out.
para llevar ese tipo de política adelante,
But to carry out these
indudablemente que es
policies,
muy incómodo un consejero de seguridad
it's
nacional
uncomfortable to
como
have a
Bolton, y tal vez
security
una
council
persona
like
nueva
Bolton.
de refresco,
Maybe somebody
que habría que
new
ver
that will
si
refresh the
tiene
cabinet,
algún oficio diplomático, porque la característica
because this
de
man
los que
is
manejan la
more
política
like a
exterior en la
policeman.
administración Trump desde el principio, que se trata de personas
From the beginning, we're speaking of
que
people
parecen cualquier cosa menos diplomáticos.
that
Esa es la
look like
realidad.
anything else other than diplomats.
Gracias, Ángel. Hasta la próxima.
Thank
Espero
you, Jose
poder
Angel.
comunicarnos
I hope
mejor
we see each
en
other
una
soon and
nueva
that we have
conexión
better
de jugada crítica.
communication.
Pero bueno, allí teníamos las ideas, el análisis
There we had the ideas,
de
analysis
este periodista conectado desde México,
of this reporter
Ángel
that is
Guerra
connected
Cabrera,
from
y
Mexico.
vamos a detenernos en un punto en particular, ¿no?
Let's
Caso
stop at a point
Venezuela,
that is
porque,
important in the case
lo
of
decía
Venezuela,
Ángel, bueno, varios de los
because
ataques fueron enfilados particularmente hacia Venezuela.
it says that
Nosotros lo recordábamos
many of the
en ese
attacks were
pasaje por las
against
últimas
Venezuela.
acciones o por los ejes más emblemáticos de
Let's not
este
forget
extremo
that
de la línea dura de la política exterior estadounidense. Realmente hubiera sido
this has
distinta
been
la
the
estrategia
intention.
en
Of course,
caso
the
de que
strategy would be
Bolton no
different in
habría
case that
estado.
Bolton was
Bueno,
not there.
vamos a
Let's
analizarlo con nuestro
analyze
próximo
this
invitado,
with
igual
our
que otras
next
aristas que
guest.
no queremos que se queden pendientes. Ya venimos.
We'll
una
be right
última
back. the United States with Bolton outside of the country, what is the new strategy? This is what we're trying to understand, along with the analysis of our guests. As we saw in the previous segments, is what happens with Venezuela. Regarding Venezuela, in November 2018, Bolton said that that country, along with Cuba and Nicaragua, are the triangle of tyranny. He promised that this triangle would come down. In April 9th, he spoke to the Minister of Defense of Venezuela, Mr. Padrino Lopez, as if he was an employee of the U.S., and he said that Maduro is now recruiting foreign terrorists onto the militaries. Bolton also carried out the psychology strategy of saying 5,000 weapons to Colombia. This was disseminated because he tried to create instability. All of this trying to threaten the military forces of Venezuela in the days that they were being attacked. One of the most interesting declarations was when he revealed the real interest of Venezuela. And there he said that he mentioned the natural resources, saying that if several oil companies could also participate in the oil of Venezuela. We're speaking with the main companies to see if it's possible to work there. That is what he said to Fox in the last days of January of this month. To this confession, he added a hypothetical confrontation with Maduro. Let's continue analyzing now with our guest. He's a professor. Well, I was asking in the previous segment before going to our pause, we're asking if John Bolton would not have been in this post, do you think that the policy towards Venezuela would have been different? Well, I think to see this question, it's important to see all of the trajectory of the U.S. Ever since this man and these ultra-conservative people are in power. That group has always managed all of the policies. But within this group, there are some strategies pushed forward by certain men.
A las que se refiere Trump en su descargo, ¿no? En su descargo. Pero también yo dijera que hay que recordar mucho aquello
and I think we have to remember that the policy is everything that we don't see. And we're seeing these personal maneuvers that at the end of the day, there's a permanent negotiation. Due to the crisis that the U.S. has, the governments, be they conservative or Democrats, they think it's a game of negotiation, and the group that's led by Bolton is the one of the most belligerent front, thinking that they can overcome any situation with other forces through war. And this is this has just brought great defeat. Because nobody really pays attention to them. Iran is going back to the uranium enrichment, something that Israel opposes. This brings several things. And then what they're not doing is to find sure grounds on how to confront China or any other superpowers that are confronting the U.S. In this, the Monroe Doctrine is brought once again forward with Trump and the group that is represented by Bolton. Because now I think that what is at stake are the groups. There are groups within the Trump camp. Let's not forget that the Security Council director is the one who proposed to get closer to Russia. And this because together they were waiting to destroy their enemies. Trump still thinks that he is able to do so. Jorge Gestoso mentioned that this man with his hostile policies is really increasing this arms weapons companies.
Tanto en la oratoria como en los hechos, digo, porque podría existir la moderación, pero solo desde el punto de vista del verbo.
There can be some. I think that Trump will continue paying attention to this group of this arms escalating. But with a little bit more to try to neutralize. In the case of Russia, because Bolton was a spokesperson from the missile. And this causes some concern because there's an amount of money that is invested in this, because since Russia has no limitation, that will keep on proliferating its defense, because they're also surrounding Russia once again, this, like what happened during the Cold War, but another situation with an alliance with China. But going back to our eyes to Latin America, this situation that Bolton began with everything he did and with the pressure on Pompeo, trying to press Duque in Colombia, that led us back to a confrontation. Because this social situation that Duque has created, pushing us back to previous situation, this has only made the guerrillas to take back the arms. And this has brought a situation that can cause a lesser control over Venezuela, because they themselves are undergoing a very serious situation. But the thing is that Bolton, as the security advisor, defines security of the nation depending on the interests of the big interest companies. In fact, one of his deputy of his office was a high-ranking official of the weapons company. I think this is a new strategy on behalf of Trump's government, because bear in mind that in the last weeks, and it's incredible to see how Trump is losing points in the upcoming elections in Florida. So he has to think clearly of what to do with the upcoming elections. He has to find strategies, and there is a generation that has been formed with the worrisome of the wars that happened before, with less aggressions.
¿Estaría buscando diálogo con Irán, por ejemplo?
These are like more left-wing criteria. There are people who want to improve the situation, to be able to go back and have the global space that they have lost due to this confrontation with China. So, the president of Huawei just recently said that the U.S. needs more of Huawei than vice versa. Because up until now, the U.S. has not been able to do anything against this company. And many of the things that happen are just like this one. They really don't care about the pressures.
a desarrollar más la capacidad nuclear.
On the contrary, they keep on developing nuclear power. In the case of Venezuela, we've seen how all of the people come together along with the Bolivarian Revolution and the people and President Maduro and have gone to the streets and have gathered 12 million signatures. And this is what they think and what they propose is a new situation to be closer. And this and all of this is, we have to see how Trump manages himself in this race that is ongoing. Thank you very much, Professor, for being with us. Let's go to our conclusions.
Bueno, fíjense ustedes, recalcitrante pensador de la política exterior de la era Bush.
This foreign policy thinker, he had more luck in the Trump administration than his two previous predecessors. He held his post longer, a year and a half. The truth is that his ousting, being this an exit or fired, there's still the new polemic is to have moderation or not. And this is important to see what's going to happen with the upcoming elections. Well, groups that rather increase the diplomacy, to be more subtle. From this point of view, some people prefer to have a hard, extreme line that John Bolton had for this year and a half. Both interests, both the electoral and the weapons company, are very important interests in every decision that Trump makes. And in regards to Venezuela, the last hours, Trump said that the former security advisor, Bolton, his criteria was not correct. So thank you very much for being with us. I'll see you tomorrow.